seminar. Again, this is Simone Turek. I am the Associate Policy Director at John Burton Advocates for Youth, and you'll see on the screen here, as I advance the slide, all of the technical information. If you call in using a telephone versus listening through your computer speakers, you'll tend to get some better audio quality. So this is our recommendation if you want to do so if you're listening through your computer speakers. And this information on your control panel, excuse me, is also on the right-hand side of your screen. And we always post the recording and the slides from our webinars. Excuse me. On our websites, and you can see that information on the screen as well. I apologize to you, I'm having some issues with my voice. I'm getting over being ill. This is our 5th web seminar on a series of 7 focused on post-secondary education. And these webinars are held monthly, the 2nd Thursday of the month from 10 to 11. And if you're registered for today's webinar, you're registered for all of these, and they'll run through the month of May. Today's webinar will focus on on-campus resources for current and former foster youth. And today, luckily, because my voice is failing me, my colleague, Deborah Pruitt, will be moderating, and so I'm going to turn it over to her right now.
Thanks, Simone. Good morning, everyone. This is Deborah Pruitt. I'm a program manager at John Burton Advocates for Youth, and Simone's been getting over a cold, so I hope you're feeling well. And I want to welcome you. That today is really a great program because the truth is there are a lot of support services and resources for foster youth on college and university campuses. So this webinar is about how to help youth enroll and get connected to those resources so that they can succeed all the way through whatever program that they are choosing, whether it's a certificate or a 4-year degree and on, so that they have a great career in life. And we're really fortunate to have 3 great experts on the panel. I want to mention them quickly, and then I'll introduce each of them as they present. So we have, if you would, next slide, please, Simone. We have Jessica Smith, who is the statewide FYSI liaison with the Foundation for the California Community Colleges. She'll explain to you what FYSI means. And as some of the promotional materials for this webinar said, we're going to be decoding that alphabet soup during the webinar. And our next speaker will be Kalinda Weber-McLean. She's the Dean of Student Success at Pierce College in Los Angeles. So she'll be telling us about all the supports that are available for foster youth at community colleges. And then Kizzy Lopez, the coordinator of the Renaissance Scholars Program, that special program for foster youth at Cal State University of Fresno. And so she'll be focused on what are the supports available for students at the Cal State University system. And I will speak just a couple of minutes at the end about some of the support connections and resources with the University of California system. Just a couple logistical things. Again, if you're using your phone, you'll be happier with the sound. Everyone is in listen-only mode, so you don't have to worry if your phone rings or someone walks in the room. We won't be hearing you. And also, we will be taking questions at the end of all of the presentations, but you're welcome to submit your questions at any time. If you look at your control panel, there is an option there for questions. So please post your questions there. I'll be collecting them and then fielding them to the panelists at the end of their presentations. If you have any technical problems, anything, if you're not hearing the sound or whatever, you can use the chat feature to chat to Simone or myself, so we can try to help you get that straightened out. But so far, no chat, so I'm thinking everyone's hearing us and it's going well. So with that, I'd like to move on to our presentations because we have such great experts to share their wisdom with you. So first is Jessica Smith, and she is the statewide liaison for the Foster Youth Support Initiative, a joint project of the Foundation for California Community Colleges and the Community College Chancellor's Office. So with that, I introduce Jessica Smith to you.
Thank you, Deborah, and thank you, Simone, and thank you to the John Burton Advocates for Youth for having me here today to talk about the Foster Youth Success Initiative, also known as FYSI. So I am the statewide FYSI liaison. This program is run out of the California Community College Chancellor's Office and the Foundation for California Community Colleges. It's a partnership between the two of us. So I'm just going to take a few brief minutes here to talk about the FYSI and just go over an overview of how this initiative functions. Next slide, please. So back in 2005, there was an overwhelming amount of foster youth students that were not receiving the support and resources they needed, and the Chancellor's Office took note of that, particularly in regards to financial aid. So as a result, about a year later in 2006, an initiative was formed out of the Chancellor's Office that officially acknowledged the need for foster youth student support on every community college campus, and offered up training and technical support in order to accommodate the unique needs of our foster youth students. So now, today, currently, there is at least one FYSI liaison, and I'll go more into what an FYSI liaison is here in a few slides. There's at least one on each of the 113 community college campuses in the state. Some campuses have actually 2 or 3 liaisons, but we're proud to report that every college has at least one at this juncture. So each campus supports their foster youth students sort of in their own way and as they're able to, which is why you've probably seen or heard of different program names for foster youth students on community college campuses, such as Guardian Scholars or Renaissance Scholars, Inspiring Scholars, FYSI. But all of these are models of FYSI that are created and implemented with the same intention of serving our foster youth students. Some programs offer different kinds of things, but we're all working towards the same goal, and we're grateful for each of our FYSI programs that exist within each campus across the state, and hope to see them continue to grow and serve our students. Next slide, please. So the FYSI is a big partnership between all sorts of partners and stakeholders, and really without the support and investment of so many of our partners, the FYSI would not exist today as we know it. So we are very grateful to all of our supporters, partners, collaborators, all of whom understand that it truly does take a village to provide the robust services and support systems for our foster youth students across our campuses and in our communities. Next slide, please. So we already know a lot of the benefits of higher education, so I'm not going to go too much into detail on this slide, but I just wanted to take a moment to point out here that the benefits of higher education are arguably even more significant for our foster youth students, who, of course, by achieving higher education, that can mean breaking a cycle of homelessness, it can mean avoiding incarceration, breaking cycles of addiction, and sort of giving our students a way out of the behavioral patterns and lifestyles that many of our youth regularly have modeled to them, and this is where FYSI comes in. So, of course, FYSI aims to ensure that every foster youth student has a fair chance at being successful in their educational endeavors. Next slide, please. So the FYSI operates on 5 main goals for improvement. I'm going to briefly go through our 5 main goals. These are the goals that we try to stick to and kind of guide us as we implement our FYSI efforts across campuses. So first of all, we work to improve access to student and academic support services and resources. So the purpose of FYSI is to increase the network of support that's available to foster youth students, but oftentimes underutilized simply because students don't know these networks exist, and they just need someone to not only point them out, but assist them in participation, encourage them, and support them in pursuing academic support as needed. Second, we work to improve term-to-term retention rates. So Getting students enrolled in college and on campus is a great start, but keeping them there and keeping them on campus and in classes is equally as important. So by building connections and personal relationships with our foster youth students, they're more likely to remain enrolled in classes from semester to semester and from year to year. Number 3, we would like to improve academic performance. So with that, our FYSI liaisons can refer students to tutoring or academic advising, things like this. And I'd also like to point out here that foster youth students are more likely to be academically successful simply by having a connected relationship to their FYSI liaison or some other person or even classmate on campus. So we really try to foster these relationships, which in turn can allow students to sort of stabilize and therefore focus on academics and take advantage of all forms of support on campus. And then 4 and 5, we would like to improve completion of certificate and degree programs or transfer rates to our 4-year universities. So the FYSI programs are created to help students become successful, whatever their academic goals look like. Foster youth students, of course, like any students, have all sorts of different academic goals, and there is no one-size-fits-all solution to any academic endeavor. So the FYSI liaison is there to assist with creating a plan for the foster youth student to either complete a specialized certificate or an associate's degree, or to meet the transfer requirements and transfer on to a 4-year. Next slide, please. And so now I'm just going to go over the organizational structure of the FYSI. So we have the FYSI organized into a regional structure throughout California. So we've divided it up into 10 regions within the state, and each region has one FYSI regional representative. The regional representative holds a very important role in supporting and equipping the campuses within their region to best serve foster youth students. Regional representatives will attend quarterly meetings here at the Chancellor's office, where they can provide information or areas of concern within their region, as well as receive updates and other kinds of pertinent information from both the Chancellor's office and their fellow regional representatives and other community partners and FYSI colleagues. Something to keep in mind, the regional representatives will also be hosting a regional event that's designed for collaborative community partners, such as housing agencies or K-12 partners, county offices of ed, FYSI liaisons, and other community agencies, which I will be talking more about in just one second. But I wanted to point out that I know this map is probably pretty difficult to read on the slide because I had to shrink it down. So this map will be available on our website, hopefully within the next week. It's not up there today, so hopefully no one's going to go look for it today, but I am working on getting a copy of this map in PDF format up on our website as soon as possible, so it'll be easier to see and easier to read. Next slide, please. So I wanted to make sure that everyone knew who their regional representative for the FYSI is. And so I've listed out on the left side here, you're going to see which region it is, followed by which county. And then on the right side, you're going to see who your FYSI regional rep is and which campus they're at. And I highly recommend finding out who the regional rep is within your region and introducing yourself and making that connection. And as I just mentioned a few moments ago, each of our regional reps is planning a regional event, hopefully to take place within the next 12 months or so. And so it'd be really helpful for them to know who you are as well, so that there can be some partnerships and coordination of services that benefit our foster youth within regions or within counties and communities and whatever that looks like. So real quickly, I want to make sure everyone has a chance to see which county they're a part of and then correspond with which representative. So we have Region 1 is Karen Micalizio over at Butte College. Region 2, we have Flo Charlie at Sierra College. Region 3, we have Rahima Islam at Contra Costa College. And Region 4, we have Katie Fitzgerald at Mission College. Next slide. And once again, I'll just pause here briefly so that if you need to jot down who your regional representative is, you have time to do so. Region 5, it's Tiffany Haynes over at Porterville College. Region 6, Anaisa Alonso at Moore Park College. Region 7 covers most of LA County. There are parts in the north and the south that are cut off by Region 6 and 8, so refer to the map to see exactly where those lines are. Region 7 is Marisol Ramirez at LA Pierce, and then Region 8 is Yvette Tafoya at Cerritos. Next slide, please. Region 9 is Rejoice Tavira at Crafton Hills, and then Region 10 we have Alexis Ayala at Imperial Valley College. So once again, I recommend getting in contact with your regional rep if you have students who are attending community college or are interested in community college, or you have resources available to foster youth students within that region that you're a part of. Next slide, please. So real quick, the FYSI liaison is something I've kept mentioning throughout the presentation. The FYSI liaison is essentially the one person who's been designated to support the foster youth students that are coming into the campus. So these are just a few more specific details regarding their role. Depending on which campus you're on, you're going to find some of the liaisons are housed in financial aid, some are in EOPS, some have their own independent program. It's really just a case-by-case campus, however they choose to moderate that. So regardless of which program the FYSI liaison is housed in, the role of the FYSI liaison is the same. So of course, like I mentioned, being the primary point of contact, they're there to direct the student to all the other places or resources that are accessible to ensure the foster youth students succeed. The FYSI liaison is also responsible for communicating with their regional rep in order to get the most up-to-date information, resources, legislative updates, things like that. We also encourage our FYSI liaisons to check in regularly with their students, to introduce them to other foster youth students or other people who support foster youth students, and to try to develop meaningful relationships with their students. Next slide, please. And then we really encourage them to create this network of support. So this network is made up of all sorts of different components. 6 of them are listed here. I'm sure we could all come up with a lot more, but these are some of the main ones. So of course, financial aid support is very important. We all know that our foster youth students oftentimes don't have the safety net of relying on familial units or living at home, or financial support from the family. So financial aid is hugely important, especially making sure that they're taking full advantage of all the financial aid that there is available. Oftentimes there are unused, unmet opportunities for foster youth who are searching for financial aid, so we want to make sure that those all resources are exhausted. Of course, on-campus support, as noted before, the foster youth students need a lot more support and encouragement, and so connecting them with either tutoring or clubs or academic advising, support groups, counseling, things like this. The FYSI liaison is there to help them find out what kind of on-campus supports are available, academic support and career exploration. As is true for any young person, career and or academic exploration and goal setting can seem daunting and confusing or just not immediately important. So the FYSI liaison is sort of there to help take care of those immediate needs with their foster youth students so that they can also simultaneously create a plan and make sure that the student is on track for either their academic or their vocational goals. Then of course, community resources, which I have kind of already gone over. The FYSI liaison has knowledge regarding what kinds of community resources are available to them, such as housing programs or food banks, public benefits, AOD programs, childcare, things like that. So if a student comes in with a need specific a specific need, then the FYSI liaison can help coordinate that with their community partners. Creating a healthy community of support is also extremely important for our students. We want our FYSI liaisons to create a space, if they're able to, where foster youth students can come and study, come and use computers or printers if they have that resource available, and just come and make relationships and connections with other foster youth students or the FYSI liaisons as they're available. And last but not least, of course, physical and mental health. And so in order to be successful in academics, we know that students need to be healthy both mentally and physically. So FYSI liaisons can help connect students with health resources, if there are any on-campus counseling services. A few of our campuses have health centers, and if not, they can link their students with community clinics and things like that. So that pretty much wraps up the FYSI program. I think the next slide is going to have my contact information, and so if anybody has any other questions, contact me there. Thank you.
Deborah, are you perhaps on mute?
Thanks, Jessica. Yeah, I'm here. Thank you, Jessica. That was really helpful. If we can go to the next slide, then I get to introduce Kalinda Weber-McLean with Pierce College to talk about the California Community Colleges as a system, so some of the variations that exist across that system, different campuses.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kalinda Weber-McLean. As mentioned, I bring you greetings from Los Angeles Pierce College. Many times when we begin the conversation with current or former foster youth about attending or participating in post-secondary education and attending college, there becomes this consideration or discussion about making money versus school. And we believe that they don't have to be mutually exclusive. There are a variety of different alternative routes that are available to current and former foster youth so that they can attend school as well as still allow for participation in employment if that's necessary. So within the California Community College system, we provide online classes. We have short-term classes, which allow for either instead of 16-week regular term attendance in some colleges, there are short-term classes that are offered for 8 weeks or so. Also intersessions such as winter intersession or summer intersession. We also have PACE programs, and the PACE program is basically an accelerated pathway for working adults. And so that's offered at a variety of community colleges. And so they offer short-term classes, evening classes, weekend classes, things like that. And then there's always open entry classes offered within the California Community College system in the credit or the non-credit system. And so I'll talk a little bit more about the support programs in a moment, but I think that one of the things that's not really known about the California Community College system is that we offer non-credit skill building programs. And so those are open entry classes where the students can start and stop outside of the regular term. So when everyone has this concept that for the fall semester, school begins in September or in late August. And so non-credit offers an opportunity for students to start and stop outside of that traditional calendar. We also provide CTE, or career and technical education training, and that's really helpful for students in terms of those that are interested in vocational or career technical pathways. And then we have on-campus employment to make it easier for our students. So we provide an opportunity for students to work on campus while attending school so they could make money and go to school and make it convenient for them. There are many campuses such as Pierce College which seek to employ for current and former foster youth, and so we find on-campus employment for their students outside of the federal work-study program. Next slide. So when considering entry into the California Community College system, we know that the California Community College system is a great entryway and provides access to post-secondary education for our current and former foster youth. However, the processes for how you enter the college vary from college to college. Each college requires that new students participate in the matriculation process, but it varies from college to college, the order in which you participate in the matriculation process. So each college requires assessment, orientation, and educational planning before a student starts classes, but depending upon the college that you are interested in your student attending, it will vary whether you do assessment first or orientation first or educational planning first. But it is important to note that all three of these services are required for new students to participate in. And once you've done some research and identified which college your student will be attending, then you will figure out from that college's website the order of participation, so whether orientation comes first or assessment comes first. I think the most important thing to note is that students are required to participate in this process and that you should do the research prior to the start of the school year or the semester or the term that you're interested in attending. Next slide. In terms of attendance, current and former foster youth are allowed or afforded an opportunity to take advantage of priority registration. And priority registration allows the students to register early before other students at the college so that they can get the courses that they want or desire before the courses are full. The eligibility for requirement for priority registration in the California community colleges and the CSU is expanded. So as of the beginning of this year, in January 2017, the students that are eligible for priority registration are defined as current or former foster youth that were in care on or after their 16th birthday and are under the age of 26. That's a really important note because at some colleges, they don't have a way of enforcing this, so they actually, any student that is identified as a current or former foster youth is given priority registration. However, that is not the law. And so it's important to note that the law requires that students are in care on or after 16 and under the age of 26 to meet the eligibility criteria for foster youth priority registration. Next slide. So after the students have completed the matriculation process, oftentimes many individuals think it's time to head towards enrolling in classes or to think about classes. But I want to remind you all that participation in a variety of programs at the college is usually under the umbrella of student services. So throughout the California community colleges, the student services are called different things and they're in different areas, and we'll go through some of that today, but it's important that you encourage students to take advantage of the student services offered at the college they intend to attend at the earliest possible opportunity. And so next slide. Keeping that in mind, we wanted to make sure we sort of decoded some of this alphabet soup. It's a little hard to navigate some of the colleges and figure out what the programs are and what the acronyms stand for the programs that are referenced. And so we'll just go through a few of them. And then we can, as we go through the presentation today, there'll be more and an opportunity for you to ask questions about any that may have come up or you've heard about that you'd like a little more explanation. So we have EOPS, which is the Extended Opportunity Programs and Services, which provides above and beyond services for the students that have been identified as educationally and or economically disadvantaged. Most of the current and former foster youth are going to meet the requirements for admission to this program, but I think it's important to note that it's a twofold criteria. They must be educationally disadvantaged, which means that they have placed into college remedial courses, or they graduated from high school with below a 2.5 cumulative grade point average, or they're first generation, things of those natures. And then the economically disadvantaged portion of the criteria refers to their eligibility for the Board of Governors fee waiver A or fee waiver B, which is based on income criteria. So as you can tell, most if not all of the current and former foster youth that are accessing California community colleges are going to meet the criteria for that. Under the umbrella of EOPS, we have the CARE program. CARE stands for Cooperative Agencies and Resources for Education, which is a program for our EOPS students that are single heads of household that have an open case for themselves or for their children, which are under the age of 14, with the county, and they receive CalWORKs or TANF benefits. So the students must be single, and they must be the head of household as determined by the county. So there is a verification process for that, but this is another program that's offered to our students that many of the current and former foster youth take advantage of if they have children of their own that they are providing care for. And then within EOPS, we have another program which is newer to the community colleges, and that's the CAFES program, which is soon to be renamed and branded as the Next Up program. So you might have heard of it referred to as CAFES, which is Cooperative Agencies Foster Youth Educational Support Program. Also, it will soon be referenced as Next Up, but it's the same program. It was launched with 10 California community college districts, about 26 colleges, and the program is specifically designed for current and former foster youth. The program provides a variety of services above and beyond what EOPS offers or the CARE program offers, and we'll talk about that a little bit more right now. So next slide. EOPS, CARE, and CAFES, or Next Up, provide services or provide a multitude of services which provide academic, emotional, and social support to students. The services that are provided, you can see on the slide, vary, and they are different from program to program. So even within the same community college district, the EOPS program services are unique to that program at that college. So it's really important as you're doing your research to figure out what services are offered at the program, within the program at the college that you are selecting, to make sure that you have a full understanding about whether or not they're going to be able to provide the sorts of support that your student needs. Next slide. And a great way to do some of the comparison is by utilizing the website for the California College Pathways. At this website, they provide a great opportunity for you to find campus support programs and allows you an opportunity to sort of access college information throughout the California community colleges and compare and contrast services and benefits of the programs and services offered from college to college. It's also a really good place to reference the names for some of these programs, because although many of the colleges have the same support program structure, the names will vary. So a good example of that is that there's the Guardian Scholars Program, which is known as Promise Scholars at some institutions, or Inspiring Scholars, or Renaissance Scholars, or whatever. So there's a lot of different names for the same type of program. So this is a great resource for you to utilize to research the different programs, see what it's called at the college that you're interested in sending the student to, and provide additional information on the specifics of that program. Next slide. Many of our current and former foster youth don't necessarily know about this hidden gem of the CalWORKS program on the California Community College campus. So CalWORKS on the California Community College campuses refers to a specific support program that works in partnership with the CalWORKS county agencies to provide direct student support on the campuses for those CalWORKS participants that are attending college. So the CalWORKS program provides a variety of resources, including child care assistance, emergency transportation, etc., that is in addition to the services that are offered through the CalWORKS county agency to the student participant. Another great benefit of participating in CalWORKS is that CalWORKS students are able to take advantage of work-study opportunities, and it allows them to participate in work-study that does not require full-time enrollment like federal financial aid work-study programs. So the CalWORKS work-study programs offers CalWORK participants an opportunity to work while attending school, but it doesn't have the requirement to attend school full-time in order to participate in the work-study. CalWORKS also provides job training, resume writing skill, so basically some of the pre- and post-employment assistance that the students may need in order to continue to persist at the college and for their benefit in the future once they time out or they exit the CalWORKS program and discontinue taking advantage of the county benefits. Next slide. We also have the DSPS program, or Disabled Students Programs and Services. This is an important program for our students because within the DSPS program, they provide additional academic and social support as well as emotional support for the students attending the community college. They also receive priority registration, and they provide academic accommodations to assist the students in persisting. An example of an academic accommodation is the note-taking assistance. This is an opportunity that's provided to students so that they will have a note taker that goes to class to take notes for them and then reconciles the notes with the students so that the students can ensure that they don't miss what's transpiring in the class. This is important to some of the current and former foster youth, because if current and former foster youth are dealing with issues such as anxiety or depression or another type of emotional duress, participation in DSPS affords them with an opportunity for accommodations to assist them in the classroom while they are still contending with some of the emotional trauma. And so, therefore, DSPS is a great service that's offered at the community college, which many of the students don't necessarily take advantage of because they assume you must be disabled, meaning a physical impairment. However, you don't have to be. As long as you have some sort of diagnosis that can be verified in the DSPS office, students are afforded the opportunity to participate. Next slide. So again, we come to the question of how will I pay for this? Because that's just, I think, sort of a no-brainer for many students as they're getting ready to head into higher education, and it's also for providers. So I think it's important to take note that we have the federal financial aid program available to students. We have support programs for foster youth such as KFU's Guardian Scholars, EOPS, et cetera. And we also have things like the California DREAM Act for our undocumented students. Next slide. Childcare comes up often for students, transportation and food, and many of the support programs that I've mentioned earlier provide assistance with these efforts. So it's really important to tell students that although there are many obstacles to attending, these obstacles can be met by participating in some of the support programs and getting help with some of these services. Next slide. There's also work opportunities, which we discussed, and there's book assistance. So textbooks are a very costly expense, and it's usually one of the barriers to attendance in community college system. However, we have many programs to assist the students with this. One of the programs that's on this slide I haven't really mentioned much is the TRIO programs, and those are the federally funded grant programs that provide student support to students, former foster youth, and others that are interested in transferring to the four-year university and participating in additional higher education courses. So it's important to tell your student to look out for these such programs. Next slide. Self-care is a big deal for our California Community College students, and particularly for our current former foster youth. And so within the California Community College system, we have a variety of services to help students take care of themselves. You'll see we have DSPS, which we mentioned. We also have special programs, and many of the colleges, like Pierce College, has a health center with robust mental and physical health services and referrals available. And so since many foster youth qualify for Medicaid, they still may need help in applying for the Medicaid, and they may need more immediate responses to their physical and mental health care needs. And so the college health centers provide that. Next slide. And I think the gist of everything for our students is how will I succeed, and while they're here at the college, we're here to help them persist by providing special programs such as the first year experience to help them in their first year get acclimated to the collegiate system. We also provide tutoring and academic support. We have a very underutilized resource which is called the faculty, and those are the actual students, the teachers that are teaching the students. Many students are afraid to access the faculty. However, they should be encouraged to go to office hours to express interest in their commitment. When I was teaching classes, I always told students it's a lot harder to fail a student that's consistently coming in and establishes a relationship with me and that I know is trying. And so that's generally the sentiment of many faculty, that they want to see more students utilizing them as a resource. Next slide. And I think it all sort of begins and ends with academic counseling. And the California Community College system, the counselors are one of the greatest resources that students have because they help navigate the collegiate waters for the students and help them from the beginning to the end. And so I think that as you are working with students, talking to students, that we should remind our current and former foster youth that their academic journey should always begin and end in the counseling office. So with that, I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kalinda. That's a wealth of information. And now we get to hear from Kizzy Lopez with the Renaissance Scholars Program at Cal State Fresno. Thanks.
Good morning. This is Kizzy Lopez, as mentioned, at Fresno State, and I have the great honor of overseeing the Renaissance Scholars Program, which supports current and former foster youth attending our university. I want to just briefly echo the sentiment of the co-presenter that discussed the importance of access for our foster youth, but I will also be focusing on the retention and how do we support our foster youth once they get into the university, particularly the CSU. Next slide. So one of the best resources to support foster youth at a CSU is the Foster Youth Support Program. So these programs are designed specifically to support foster youth who are enrolled in the CSU and provide support and coaching throughout every step of their journey at the university. And so they serve as a point of contact, like a one-stop shop for students, and the different resources that students need. The different program directors, staff, coordinators can do a warm handoff to other staff on campus or in the community, and just bringing the support all in one place for students. Next slide, please. A great way to find these foster youth support programs is by going to californiacollegepathways.org, as a previous presenter mentioned. Next slide, please. I will touch briefly on this slide only because the CSU Mentor is the way in which students can apply to CSU campuses. However, this will be changing as of fall 2018, and we will be switching over from CSU Mentor to CSU Apply. But one thing I want to note is that whether it's CSU Mentor or CSU Apply, once students complete their CSU application, they do need to indicate on CSU Apply that they are interested in the Educational Opportunity Program. The Educational Opportunity Program is very similar to EOP&S, but it's at the CSU system. And so one thing I want to mention is that just because students indicate on the CSU Mentor or CSU Apply that they're interested in EOP, that does not complete the process. They will have to complete additional supplemental information or application to complete that process. Next slide, please. EOP is over 45 years old and very similar to EOP&S, it supports economically disadvantaged students by providing admissions assistance, academic advising, and monitoring, financial assistance, and summer bridge. Briefly about the admissions assistance, most if not all the EOP programs have what's called special admission. And so for students who don't meet the regular CSU requirements in terms of GPA, test scores, and A through G requirements, if we have students that come close to that or just shy of the requirements, EOP can offer them special admissions into the university. Very critical for our foster youth students who oftentimes will not meet the requirements because of previous life challenges in the child welfare system. Financial assistance with EOP comes in the form of grant aid. Another wonderful resource for EOP is called Summer Bridge. That's a summer transitional program that provides students with academic credit, assistance with remediation, and just really helping students with the overall social and emotional transition to the university. Next slide, please. Another resource for students when applying to the CSU is please make sure and help your student apply for the fee waiver. When students apply to the CSU, it's $55, and students can apply up to 4 different campuses. Next slide, please. Financial aid. The John Burton Advocate for Youth Foundation is putting on a series of webinars, 2 of them specifically dedicated to financial aid, so I won't get into any details here, but I think people cannot hear enough that it's so important for our foster youth students to apply early to financial aid through the FAFSA. FAFSA now is available as early as October 1, and priority goes on to March 2nd. Also equally important, students need to self-report that they're a foster youth. As a program coordinator and a lot of my colleagues, we pull information to identify students through the admissions application, EOP application, and also through financial aid. And so in addition to the resources available to them through financial aid, if they self-report, they're going to get a call, an email, some type of communication from the foster youth support program, inviting them to participate in those services as well. And in addition to just starting the financial aid process, it's also important that students complete the entire financial aid process early. So the earlier you complete all of the documentation that goes with FAFSA, the more likely you are to maximize the financial aid benefit. So you can attend college. Last but not least, encourage students to apply for Chafee Grant. Some students, when talking with them, are not sure. I don't know if I qualify for Chafee. They don't remember all the details of their case. If there's even an inkling that they qualify, I just have them apply. It's a very short, simple application. And so we don't want young people to miss out on this resource because it's up to $5,000 a year. I will say it's important to note that just because students are eligible, it doesn't guarantee that they're going to get this grant award. All of it is dependent on available funding at the state level, but you definitely can't get the money if they're not applying. Next slide, please. Housing, such an important resource for our foster youth, no matter what campus they're attending. But if they're at a university, there's going to be campus dormitories, campus housing. And so I would encourage you as an educational advocate to work with your foster youth to connect with the foster youth program, because someone in my position as a coordinator is going to help you navigate the different processes and nuances of the campus, because although priority housing is established by law, how campuses administer that varies slightly from campus to campus. So working closely with your foster youth program director or coordinator will help you navigate those processes. Also, there is a housing application and fee for deposit. And that can be, a lot of money for students who don't have it. And so again, work with your foster youth support program to figure out how those fees might be deferred until students get their financial aid so that they're able to access housing and get that housing slot that they need so they can start their college journey. Housing on campus is available year-round. Students should not be paying extra to stay in the dorms during the winter months and spring break. However, although housing is available and should be open during the summer, there may be an additional charge to stay in the dorms during the summer. Again, that's where it's important to be communicating with your foster youth support program, because depending on the resources of that program, they may be able to help the student cover the cost or find financial or other solutions to help them make provisions for the summer months. Next slide, please. Priority registration was already touched on, but again, this is such an important resource for our students so that they can get the classes that they needed, particularly in the CSU. We can be impacted. It can be very difficult to get the classes that you need. So being able to register first as a priority group helps those students not only get the classes that they need, but to graduate in a timely manner, because all of that has an impact on their finances. Eligibility, as mentioned, is based on age and care. And again, I would connect with your foster youth support program to get more informed about how priority registration is administered on campus. Yes, there is a law to say that there's an age requirement, that some campuses are more lenient about the age requirement, and so just finding out what the process and how they administrate it on your respective campus can be very helpful and can be an added asset to the student. And advocate for priority registration. If for some reason the campus says our foster youth support program students get priority registration, advocate that they're a former foster youth, they don't need to participate in a foster youth program in order to get that benefit. And then the other thing that I would say is encourage the students to watch out for priority registration dates. Those are usually at very specific dates and times, and so you'll lose out on the benefit of priority registration if students are not paying attention to those deadlines. Next slide, please. Foster youth support programs are available at 22 of the 23 CSUs. A wonderful resource and provide a one-stop shop center for our foster youth. And the staff there are dedicated to this group of students and serve as an advocate for the youth. There are resources specific to the foster youth programs, and so the programs access and leverage different financial resources and partnerships to support the students. And I think what's really important too in terms of social emotional is being a part of a community, foster youth connecting with other foster youth that have similar experiences, and this feeling of normalcy in a space where their lived experience can be very challenging and difficult. And so I think it's a huge benefit to be a part of these programs so they can build community with one another. The services can vary from program to program. And so, again, go to the John Burton Advocate for Youth California College Pathways to learn more about the resources available for each specific program, because they have different resources and different names. Next slide, please. Academic advising. The advising can occur within the Educational Opportunity Program or within the campus support programs. Most foster youth support programs are within EOP, so they may get advising from EOP or from the foster youth support program. Convince students to actually utilize the services from the foster youth support program. Some students don't want to, but I think it's a huge benefit to them. And make sure that you're advocating that students meet with their advisor at least once a semester to help them stay on track and graduate in a timely manner, and again to utilize office hours and make those relationships with their professors. Next slide, please. Services for students with disabilities is what it's called at the CSU. I'm just going to touch on this quickly since someone covered it already. I think one thing to note is there actually is a lot of foster youth with disabilities, a variety of disabilities like depression, PTSD, et cetera, et cetera. So I encourage students to just make accessing resources to SSD part of their enrollment process to make sure they know where SSD is at, find out what type of documentation is needed so that they can be a part of it. So if you know your student needs services, just make that part of their application and process. We don't want to wait till there's a problem before they access those resources. Next slide, please. Many of the CSUs have a really robust health and psychological services program where they can actually receive services from the flu, birth control, broken arm or leg, and so encourage students to utilize the resources that are on campus in addition to their Medicaid. And psychological services are also important, and psychiatric services are also available on campuses. Next slide, please. Many of the campus support programs have a liaison in counseling services that are knowledgeable about foster youth. And so this is helpful because a foster youth student can see a therapist consistently instead of a rotation of interns. So encourage your students to utilize those services as well. Next slide, please. And I'm going to hand it over to Deborah.
Thank you, Kizzy. As you can see, there are a lot of resources and a lot of information on this webinar. I am going to just speak briefly about the University of California system, and I'll move quickly, not because the University of California is not important. A lot of people may think that foster youth can't go there or don't go there, but we know we have almost at least 2,000 students in the University of California system right now. So they do go to the University of California, and I want to just touch on a couple of things that will help as you guide students in that direction if that's the appropriate place for them. And I think the theme is very clear here. If you can change slides, Simone. Find the foster youth program. All the campuses have a program. Again, they may be called Hope Scholars or Inspiring Scholars. So use our website and get connected as soon as possible, even when considering applying. Because as you can hear from these folks speaking today, that staff are incredibly helpful in guiding the students in the right path for them. Next slide, please. Slide, please. Have we got a slide problem, or is it just I can't see
Well,
the change?
it looks like my PowerPoint has shut down, Deborah. Apologies.
Oh,
I'm going
okay.
to. What I'm going to suggest is we go to Q&A. There were so many great questions.
Great. I will, and I can
I will, in the
finish with.
meantime, restart.
Okay. So I think what I can say about the University of California system is simply get with the program, the Special Foster Youth Program, as soon as possible. And there is a special application fee waiver that will allow the students to apply to up to 4 campuses. And if they apply for that fee waiver, they don't have to pay the $70 to apply. And again, many of the same kinds of services exist for students with disabilities. Certain sort of student success support services also exist in the University of California system. And they have a very robust health services where you see actual doctors and nurses. So I think you can make sure the students get where they need to be. And the next slide. We've got a problem with the slide. So I will move. Oh, here we go. So again, services may vary by campuses. They're very campus specific, but they will include personal counseling and assistance with all the services in navigating the campus. Some include some emergency cash cards for food or transportation, and they can help hook up the students with scholarships and fellowships and work study opportunities and even research assistance opportunities and things like that. So it's a great academic and personal development opportunity. And the next slide. So this just highlights, excuse me, if you go to the UC application on the internet, there's tremendous information available there. And again, they can get that $70 waiver. So I'm going to move to Q&A and I'll highlight the resources that we have available. I need to do that before people have to drop away. So we do have that upcoming webinar. Sorry, Simone, we were a little off.
Sorry, jumping all over the place here. You know what, Deborah, they'll see this when we send the presentation out. So let's jump to Q&A, and they'll get this info in the email that we send later today.
Okay, great. That's great. So I think because of limited time, I've got 2 questions I'd like to highlight. And one is for Jessica, in terms of FYSI, if we can briefly address the question. So if someone has a youth that's still under the jurisdiction of California but will be attending a junior college in another state or any other kind of college in another state, would they still utilize the FYSI liaison here in California? Would that person be able to help them? Or should they go directly to that college?
Do you mean to get in contact with an out-of-state college?
In any way, what would they be able to help in any way, helping that student connect with the college?
I would recommend asking the FYSI liaison that the student is already in contact with to support that transition, and have that FYSI liaison perhaps reach out to the campus and see if there are similar programs on the campus they're planning on transferring out of state to. I'm not particularly sure about all the other states and how they function in terms of their foster youth support, but I would definitely recommend having that liaison help make that transition.
Great, that's good to know. That's an appropriate request. And then one other question, which we only have a minute or so, and this is really about a student that might need a lot of special attention. I'm going to direct this to you, Kalinda. If we have a youth that wants to go to college and the community college seems like the right place, but they really need a lot of one-to-one attention, at least to get going, is that something the colleges can offer? Where would they start? So this kind of goes to the email that you and I exchanged, Kalinda.
Okay, I think it really depends on the level of one-on-one assistance that they need. If they have more of a learning disability, they need more learning support, or if they have some sort of emotional, issue that they are contending with and they need, more support from a mental health professional. It really depends. What I will say, though, is across the board, students can always, again, begin and end the process in the counseling office in the California Community College system. The counselors are equipped to help prospective students as well as current students or returning students and work with them one-on-one in an appointment or in a walk-in fashion for quick questions, and able to assist the students one-on-one and help them to navigate, including referring them out to appropriate resources.
That's true. That's great. Really helpful. I think because we're getting to the end of our time, Simone, I'm going to ask if you can put the slide up with the I know they'll get the email, but perhaps the link for the slides, and you will also have an opportunity to listen to this recording.
Which slide are you looking for?
That's fine. And you'll also be able to contact the speakers here, the panelists. And I think that there's the big overall message here is that there are support staff on the campuses with knowledge of foster youth needs and experiences that are eager and willing to help these youth get connected and to succeed. And that's the best place to begin, and all doors will open from there. And I think our panelists have been just terrific in showing those pathways and identifying the resources that can help the youth. So I want to thank each and every one of you, Jessica and Kalinda and Kizzy, for your help here today. And we'll look forward to seeing you all on the next webinar. Thank you to all the attendees. Have a great day.